Greetings to everyone who is joining us live today, as well as those who may be viewing the archive version of today's webinar. My name is Bruce Friend. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at iNACOL. On behalf of all of my colleagues at iNACOL, we certainly appreciate your interest in submitting a presentation proposal for our 2018 symposium, and hope that you'll find the information we share in this webinar to be helpful as you think about your ideas for a possible presentation. I am joined today by my colleague, Director of Strategic Partnerships, Natalie Abel, and together Natalie and I would like to walk you through some of the details about our symposium being held in October of this year, provide some insights on what we might look for in terms of a presentation proposal, and also provide you with some important deadlines about the symposium and the RFP process. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump right on in and maybe start with a few housekeeping items first, if I may. We're going to walk through a little bit about, again, our symposium RFP process and provide some key dates, important information you'll want to know about the types of sessions that we're going to have at our symposium this year. We really do, though, want you to also feel free to ask us questions. Probably the easiest way for you to get your questions to Natalie and I today will be utilizing the chat box within the Blackboard Collaborate platform. Feel free at any time to add a question into the chat box. We are both monitoring those questions, and at the end of our presentation here, we'll go back and address the questions that were asked. There will also be an opportunity, if we prefer, to just use the talk feature and ask the question live. We can take questions that way as well. But if you think about questions as we move along here, you just want us to make sure that we get those recorded. Again, feel free to use the chat box. This webinar, as I mentioned earlier, is being recorded and archived, and so you certainly will be able to go back and listen to this webinar again, view the slides, or even share it with other colleagues in your organization who may be considering submitting presentation proposals for our symposium. At the end of today's webinar, you will receive an email from us with a link to the archive version, so please be on the lookout for that as well. Also, whether it's on today's webinar or in the spring and summer months ahead and into the fall, please do look for us on social media, on Twitter, hashtag iNACOL18, where we'll continue to update and provide information throughout the month leading up to the symposium as well. And feel free to share your thoughts and ideas around the symposium too. We certainly welcome that. And then, of course, we have our symposium website as well. You can see the address there on your screen. It's easily found by just our main website. If you go to inacol.org, you won't be able to miss the subsequent links that take you to our symposium website as well. And we'll certainly be updating information on the symposium website as the program takes shape, as we secure speakers and sessions, and information about registration as well is available there. And so we encourage you to register for the symposium sooner than later as well. Take advantage of those registration discounts that we provide if you register during the early bird period. And if you didn't know, we're really looking forward to hosting our symposium this year in Nashville. It's the first time that we've ever had the symposium in Nashville. If you've not been to downtown Nashville at the new Nashville Music City Center for any other events, it is an absolutely phenomenal event. I think actually one of the nicest convention centers in the country, really, and so we're super excited to be in Nashville this year. We'll have a great time and a lot of learning and networking taking place during our event, and I'm sure for many of you you'll enjoy Nashville after our event as well. And so I look forward to being there. It is October 21st through the 24th of 2018. For those that are new to our symposium, perhaps, the October 21st date, which is a Sunday, that's the day that we do our pre-conference sessions. Those are sessions that are much longer workshop type of sessions, typically 3 hours in length, or in some cases all-day workshops as well. 4 hours in length, and all-day workshops or pre-conference workshops as well. As that list of pre-conference workshops is developed, again, that will be posted on our website. It does require a separate registration to attend one of the pre-conferences, but again, all of that information will be provided on our website. And then the main symposium will be on the 22nd, 23rd, and the morning of the 24th. And the theme for this year's symposium is Driving the Transformation of Learning. Maybe a quick overview. Let's start with a quick overview of the actual RFP process for our call for proposals. The call for proposals is open right now. We opened it up actually last week on the 15th of February, and it will be open through March 16th. So just a shade over a month to have the proposal portal open for you to submit your proposals. The deadline is a strict deadline at 11:59 p.m. Once we hit 12 midnight, the system does shut down, and so it's very important that you get your proposals submitted before that time. The system does allow you to submit your proposal and then go back and add to it if you need to, or edit it. But it's really, really critical to get that done before the 16th of March, before that day sunsets on us, and it is 11:59 Eastern time. I should mention that as well. So please make sure that you take note of that. We will be reviewing and really putting all the proposals that come in actually are reviewed by our program committee. Our program committee consists of volunteers from all over the world who look at the hundreds and hundreds of proposals that come in and really help us at the leadership team of iNACOL shape what our program will look like. Typically it's the middle to latter part of April when we have the decisions made about which proposals have been accepted. Again, the work of that program committee is so critical because they provide us great insights and advice and reviews of all the proposals that come in. And by May 8th is the date by which, if you submitted a proposal for consideration, our goal is that by May 8th we'll let everybody know whether or not your proposal was accepted, whether it was rejected, or whether it was put on a wait list for future consideration. So that will come out in early May. And then throughout the month of June, if your proposal was accepted, again, you'll have the opportunity to go back in and make any small tweaks or edits to it. Can't change the proposal wholesale, but sometimes you might want to add a speaker, or a speaker can't come, or just update a bio. There'll be opportunities for accepted proposals to be edited during the month of June, and then all final changes deadlines come in August. So as a quick summary of the timeline that we're working on, I do want to go back before I hand it over to Natalie and talk a little bit about our mission, vision, and values here. We get a tremendous number of proposals. We've been hosting this symposium now for over a decade. Each year we do break the number, a record number of proposals received, and really commend the program committee for the work they do each year in helping us look at every single proposal that comes in. For example, last year in 2017, we had close to 800 proposals that were received to give you perspective, for approximately 200 breakout sessions. So it's pretty simple to do the math there, that we get far more proposals than we're able to accept, which I know is always kind of it's a difficult decision that the program committee and iNACOL staff have to make as to which sessions to get submitted or accepted. But again, don't let that discourage you. We expect a large number of proposals this year as well, but did want to make sure folks know that sometimes we're just not in a situation where every single great proposal always makes the final cut, and there's always really tough decisions to make. And I always know it's difficult to get that email that your proposal wasn't accepted, and please know that that's not necessarily a reflection that the idea or concepts you presented were great, but tough decisions always have to be made when we get the volume of proposals that we do. Before I hand it off to Natalie to talk a little bit about the types of sessions that we have, I encourage you to take a look at this slide, maybe kind of revisit it as you're putting your proposal together. All of this information is also available on our website. You can see our new mission statement, our new vision statement, and our new values statements there. I point this out purposefully for many of you who have been supporting, been members, been involved in our work, or benefited from our work for the last dozen or years or so. You know that our roots really were in online learning in those early years, and we have made transitions as an organization, as the field has made transitions, and our work is really focused on creating a personalized learning environment rooted in competency education. And so that's not to say that we don't welcome proposals that deal specifically with online learning. To the contrary, as you'll see, we actually have a strand specifically for online learning. But as you put together your proposal, one of the things I would suggest that you might want to do is reflect on how your proposal and what you're suggesting you present on really do tie into what our mission is or what our value statements are. That's certainly something that the program committee and we at iNACOL look for, and again would encourage you to keep those ideas front and center as you're putting your proposals together. So with that, Natalie, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Sure, great. Thank you, Bruce, for that wonderful overview and opening here. Before I get started, I just want to address a couple things in the chat box here. Some folks are saying it's a little bit difficult to hear sometimes. So if you do want to check your audio, you can go up to the toolbar at the top and click Tools and go down to Audio and click Audio Setup Wizard, and it might help some of the audio issues. And yeah, maybe it was just something on your connection, Bruce, that was a little bit hard to hear, but yeah, if you want us to repeat any information or reiterate anything that you might have missed, please feel free to let us know in the chat box. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. And as Bruce mentioned at the beginning, please feel free to ask your questions here in the chat box, and we'll be sure to save some time for those at the end. As Bruce mentioned, my name is Natalie Abel, and I'm the Strategic Partnerships Director here at iNACOL, and we will now dive a little bit deeper into the RFP process and offer some tips and insights on submitting your session proposals. So on this slide here, you will see the session tracks that we are offering this year. There are 24 to choose from. And when you submit your proposal, you may select only one session track. And I would encourage you to really focus on choosing the track that best aligns with the session content that you are proposing to present on, because our program committee really uses the session track as kind of the North Star and guiding the review process for these proposals. And if the alignment between the session track and the session content aren't there, you know, that's one of the early red flags. So just really make sure that that coherence and alignment is there. And Julia, since I just saw your question real quick, you may not submit a proposal under multiple session tracks. You must just pick one. So pick the one that you think best aligns with your content for your session. There is no silver bullet in terms of if you choose this particular track, you are more likely to have your session selected than others. We're more looking for that alignment between content and the track that you choose. And just so that everyone is aware too, we have a URL we can share with you that has all of the proposal information on it, including the session tracks and all the other information you need. We can drop that link in the chat box for you so that you can review all of this information ahead of time. And Ruth, since I saw your question too, and we'll get to some of these others later, but there is not a place where these are described deeper. These are big, overarching ideas, and we know that they're going to mean different things to different people sometimes, and that's okay. Please just choose the one that you feel is best. And as Bruce indicated when he touched on our new mission, vision, and values, you might notice that in the past we had multiple tracks for online learning and multiple tracks for blended learning. And this year we just have 2 tracks to reference those big buckets, and that's just blended learning and online learning. And most of these other tracks might look familiar to you if you've submitted presentation proposals in the past. And now we will move on to types of sessions. So when you submit your proposal, you may choose one type of session that you wish to use for your presentation. So there are 6 to choose from, and the 2 on this page are our longest options. They are 2 hours and 15 minutes, and they are really meant to be workshops for really in-depth, hands-on work. So a design workshop is really all about helping attendees and participants implement new learning designs. Personalized competency-based models, you're really looking to help attendees gain experience and promising practices in taking these models back to their home schools and districts. And a hands-on workshop is really about providing hands-on training for a particular tool or topic or practice. And with all of these types of sessions that I'm going over, I would just like to let all presenters know that as a presenter, you can upload collateral or pre-reading materials or URLs or any other information that might be helpful for attendees to have. You can upload that to our Symposium mobile application prior to the event. And when you're thinking about designing your session, you can use the mobile application for ways to promote interactivity and give folks pre-reading materials as potential ways to maybe flip your session. So those are just some ideas and some options that you'll have available as a presenter. So again, these are the 2 workshop options that are long sessions. And now we will move into the 4 options that are 1 hour in length. So an interactive discussion is about 3 to 4 panelists, and it's a moderated discussion around a particular topic. And we typically place wireless mics down in the audience for folks to ask questions and promote interactivity there. And then we have seminars, which are really about, they can take on a variety of different formats, but it's all about sharing analysis, research, policy updates, trends, other information that's pertinent to leaders who are attending our symposium. And the last 2 types of sessions, knowledge sharing. These sessions are really about the presenter spending no more than 5 minutes kicking off the general topic of the discussion and then designing the rest of the session around interactivity and promoting networking and letting attendees work amongst themselves, diving deeper into these topics to really dig in. And promoting networking is one of the things we're really looking for in these sessions. Providing opportunities for folks to meet one another and really dive in on some of the challenges they're having and promising practices they're experiencing and things like that. And the last session type is a 1 hour debate, and it is just that. It is a lively debate around a particular topic. So again, when you submit your proposal, you may select only one of these session types, and I would choose the session type that you feel is the best design for the type of content you are hoping to cover. And again, all of this information is explained within the RFP system, so you'll be able to refer back to all of this content then, and these descriptions are embedded in our online portal as well, so you'll have all of this information. All right, so I will quickly highlight some tips that we have pulled together for completing the RFP process. We would like to just notify everyone that we typically deal with the lead presenter as our one point of contact, who is responsible for sharing all information with any co-presenters that might be listed, and to verify conflicts. We do our very best to ensure that presenters aren't double booked in any instances, but we can't possibly catch them all. We really do our very best to try to limit the number of conflicts, but we encourage you to verify schedules and certainly reach out to us and let us know if there are any scheduling issues. And please just pass along any information that we send you to your co-presenters. We do have a limit to the number of proposals each organization can submit. So we allow each organization to submit 3. And if you submit more than 3, the iNACOL program committee will only consider the first 3 you submitted chronologically. So we get questions often about what organization means, and when it comes to the school and district level, we will treat the word organization at a much more granular level. So we will accept 3 proposals from each school. We certainly do not expect an entire district to only submit 3 proposals. So we will treat organization at the school level. And if you have any more questions around what specifically we mean by organization, feel free to ask us those questions, but generally we will be a little bit flexible and allow more proposals. And I will get a little bit more into interactivity in the next slide, but we're really looking for ways to personalize attendee learning. In concert with who we are and what we do, we're really looking to make this experience at the symposium exactly what our attendees need. So we're really looking for that in the session proposals. So we want to see ways in which you are designing your session around core elements of personalized learning that promote meeting participants where they are and giving them the support that they need to master the learning outcomes that you include in your proposal. And we would just like to note that product pitches will not be considered, so please do not even include names of products in the titles or session abstracts that you submit. We receive so many tremendous proposals every year, and we just cannot accept product pitches. And new this year, we are accepting URLs to videos that might highlight some of your school models. So this is completely optional, but if you have videos that already exist that point to teachers and students particularly and education leaders showcasing innovative new designs or how your school model is approaching personalized competency-based learning and offering tremendous learning experiences for students, you can include these URLs as a supplement to your presentation proposal. Please note that your proposal will not be docked in any way if you do not provide a URL. This is purely optional. And what it does for us is it allows us a different opportunity to dig a little bit deeper into your school model if we're not familiar with you, and learn a little bit more about what it is that you're doing. We would like these videos to be under 5 minutes if possible, but you know, if you have a link to a YouTube video or there's a video on your school's website, you know, that's perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. So feel free to include those, and we would be happy to use that as a supplement to your presentation proposal. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a PDF of all of the RFP questions that's available for you to download and print in advance. We know it's sometimes easier to work on the RFP, you know, with a printed version or via email. And I see Ashley just dropped that in the chat box for you. So you can figure out your content in advance and then head back into our online portal and submit that at any time before the deadline. So as I mentioned, one of the key elements we are looking for when the program committee rates session proposals is interactivity. We really want to move away from stand and deliver presentations, and we want to model the personalized competency-based designs that we advocate for. So on the slide are some quick ideas and ways you can help to design interactive sessions, but we encourage you to be creative and come up with your own ideas that engage the audience in new and unique ways, and really promote learning and networking among attendees. So you can read through these on your own, and I will quickly highlight a couple. There are easy ways to check audience understanding at the beginning of a session and then tailor your session to where the audience is coming in on that particular topic in terms of understanding. And you can group and regroup attendees around level of knowledge or common interests to promote engagement and networking that way. Icebreakers are a great way to help folks meet one another. And there are interesting Pecha Kucha or lightning talk formats if you're familiar with that. It allows you to have only 20 slides and only 20 seconds per slide. And that's a really great way to kick off a topic at the beginning of a session and then move away from a PowerPoint presentation entirely and really focus on engagement and interactivity in other ways. As always, you can encourage folks to share what they're learning on social media to extend learning to their peers who aren't able to attend. But there are many, many different ways to design interactive sessions. So be creative, and we look forward to really seeing how you plan to promote participation in deep ways in your session proposals. And lastly, before we open it up for questions, just a couple announcements. I think Bruce hit on a couple of these in his opening, but for some of the folks who came on a little bit later, we will open attendee registration in early spring, and early bird registration ends July 11th. So if you know you are attending the symposium this year, it really behooves you to register during that early bird period. You will save a couple $100, which is really, really great. So be sure to get on our mailing lists if you're not, so that you receive notifications when we open up registration and things of that nature, so that you are aware and can save some money there. And as always, if you're interested in sponsoring, please contact us. We'd be happy to follow up with you directly on that.
So Natalie, this is Bruce, and been monitoring. Thank you for all that information and reviewing the types of sessions and the types of things that we're looking for. If I may, I'd like to follow up on a couple things. And while you were talking, there were a few questions that came out I might be able to help answer here as well, or reiterate. One of the questions that came in terms is the type of people and positions who attend the symposium. You know, our work really is focused in the K-12 arena. So without putting an exact percentage of how many folks actually come to the symposium, there are either that are involved in K-12 education, the answer to that is very high. We do have folks who maybe work in the university systems that will attend, but the vast majority of our attendees are going to be, their work is going to also be focused in the K-12 arena. And it really is that when you get down to the practitioner level or the school leaders who attend our symposium, we find that it really is a pretty good mixture of both elementary, middle, high school attendees. In terms of the bigger picture of our attendees, we get everyone from policymakers who come to learn about, what are policies and barriers that might be eliminated through policy development that will foster personalized and competency-based learning. We do get a school district, everyone from superintendents to folks in school district offices, school leaders, teachers, and so it is a pretty broad mixture of folks. I think it's also interesting to share too is that we're seeing a really whole new group of new faces coming to our symposium each year as well. As a matter of fact, if I look back to last year's information, approximately half of our attendees last year, it was their very first symposium. And so it was upwards of about 2,700 attendees that were with us last year. And so, that might help. It's probably good to know that as well. I mean, we do have a fair number of folks who've been involved in developing personalized learning models for many, many years, but we also have a whole group of new people coming to the symposium who really are those beginning stages of looking at how personalized learning and competency actually implemented in their districts and schools. And so hopefully that helps a little bit there as well. And Natalie did touch on not just the session types, but what we look for, and she talked about product pitches, and we really are looking for sessions. We do our very best to make sure that the sessions are not simply product pitches. That does not mean that if you're submitting a proposal from a district or a school where you want to discuss tools that you're using that are truly helping you personalize learning for students, that's fine. But it should not be an overt presentation or proposal that is about a specific product. Those typically will not get past the program committee, just to be very candid about it. We had just actually the last year's attendance was about 2,600. We're expecting, in the neighborhood of 3,000 attendees this year as well. And I encourage you to put a link as an action has done to in the chat box here. Some resources you can find on our website. Just as I had mentioned earlier, that it probably would be very good for you to kind of reacquaint yourself with our new mission and vision and value statements. We have a lot of publications. I put one out there in the chat box entitled "Mean What You Say." Probably helpful for you to know too as you're developing your proposals, how we define some of these terms, how we define personalized learning, how we define competency ed as well. And so I encourage you to maybe do some reading up on those as well. Natalie, I'll hand it back over to you.
Sure, thank you, Bruce. And I apologize for the audio quality. It seems that some folks are still having trouble hearing me, so we're going to look into that, and hopefully the recording today will be clear for you all. But I will begin to just go back through some of the questions that we've received in the chat box here. And Greg, I saw your question at the very bottom about there's a blog post on Competency Works that was just posted a couple days ago on must-have sessions for the competency education track. We have not written individual blogs about must-have sessions for the other tracks, the other 23 tracks that we're offering this year. But if you are interested in submitting a proposal within the competency education track, I encourage you to look at that blog that Greg shared in the chat box for some ideas on some sessions that we are going to be specifically looking for and making sure that we include in the conference program. And Kayla from Medina Public Schools, I certainly appreciate your comment about wanting to have more sessions from teachers who are in the trenches, on the front lines, doing this work every day, and really looking for promising practices and strategies that they've implemented that they've found to be effective in their classrooms or outside of their classrooms. I just wanted to say we hear you, and we can certainly pass that information along to the program committee. It's really, really helpful for us to receive feedback like this from attendees around what types of sessions you feel like are missing, because we really do operate under the mantra of continuous improvement at our event, and we really want to innovate ourselves and cater the learning experience to what you guys need. So thank you for sharing that information, and we will try to get more classroom teachers as presenters to talk about their experience with implementation. And moving on, Kathleen, thank you for your question asking if there is a proposal review rubric that you can share. I do not believe that there is a public rubric that we are able to share, but Bruce, let me check in with you on that one. You might have other information.
No, I think what you'll find when you actually go into the RFP process, the RFP system itself, that we do ask some demographic kind of baseline information about who's submitting the proposal, where it's coming from. But the things that we're going to focus mostly on is actually how does this prospective presentation really align to what we're trying to do as an organization in terms of showcasing personalized competency-based learning in action. So you'll see when you fill out the proposal, based upon the types of questions that we're asking, where we're putting a lot of you might say, the weight. I don't have a rubric per se. The program committee does review each. We do provide guidance around the program committee and sort of the what to look for in the presentation. And again, it's interactivity. It's making sure that it's that it's truly an innovative model that's being presented. If it's about a specific school or district model, but I think once you go in and actually see the questions that make up the RFP, you'll quickly see where we're really putting the value in terms of what we're looking for. And there was one other question too earlier on. Someone asked the question: does it ever occur if you submitted a proposal under one strand, and then in the program committee and we at iNACOL look at it, maybe it gets accepted in a different strand? That does happen. I won't say that it happens all the time, but occasionally we might see a proposal that sounds great, definitely a topic we want to cover, but maybe we see it as a better fit in a different strand, and so we certainly would entertain that as well in those situations and have done so in the past. And I see someone else asked, I think it was Greg as well. I'm not familiar with any other education events going on in Nashville around the time of our symposium, but I'll have to be honest with you, Greg, I haven't looked either, so that doesn't mean that there's not, but certainly something that you could potentially look into. I'm just not familiar with any as of right now.
Great, thank you, Bruce. We will move on now. Heather asked if the program committee has a preference for the type of session you choose. In other words, will they accept more of a certain type of session than another type of session? And the answer is no. The one caveat to that I will mention is that workshops certainly take up more time in the agenda, therefore we have less room for them. in the whole agenda, just because they are 2 hours and 15 minutes as opposed to 1 hour. But that is not to dissuade anyone from submitting workshops, because they are incredibly vital sessions that really provide that hands-on interactive training opportunity that we are looking to provide. But otherwise, the program committee considers the type of session that you choose, but there is not a particular quota on the number of sessions accepted in one type versus another type. So again, I would just encourage you to choose the type that has the design that you think best facilitates the rest of your proposal.
And now, if I may just
please.
piggyback on that real quickly too, I think that some of that is dictated too by just the sheer volume that come in under each strand. There are certain strands that tend to generate a larger volume of sessions than some of the other strands. That doesn't mean that the quality is any less at all. But there are certainly sometimes there's strands that just generate more proposals than some of the other strands do.
Yes, thank you. And Andrew asked us how many attendees were there at last year's symposium. Bruce, do you have that number off the top of your head?
I sure do. 2,590 were at last year's symposium. Again, we're expecting to happen even more this year as well. And again, it's a nice cross-section of folks from all different aspects of people who work in, work for, or otherwise influence K-12 education. And I'll pick up too. Bruce just asked the question: do you ever have a situation where a proposal is submitted and we ask for more detail? Yeah, I mean that is possible. If we think that there might be a proposal that was really onto something here that we have some additional questions about, it's not out of the realm of possibility that we would go back to the presenter and say, hey, can you maybe clarify this, or tell us a little bit more about that. Again, I don't want to set that as an expectation that we do that with every proposal, because we simply can't. With 800 and some proposals that come in, that it would be nearly impossible for us to go back and ask personal questions of every one. But if there's one that seems to catch our eye and we just want a little bit more information about, we could possibly do that.
Great, thank you. We had a question much earlier in the presentation about the average size of attendance between the different design workshops and hands-on workshops. And yes, the workshops themselves are typically placed in smaller rooms to allow for maximum interactivity, but most of this is really predicated on the room size at the particular event, at the event location that we have for that year, and the room that the session is placed within. So if you're looking for, capacity or the number of attendees who might be in your session, we can verify, or we can guesstimate that information for you much later on. Once your presentation is accepted, we will have a survey for you to fill out that collects a little bit more information about your needs and your room setup, whether you need table rounds or if you prefer theater style. We get into all of that information. So just know generally that the workshops will be placed in smaller rooms, typically in table rounds, just to facilitate the types of conversations that we are hoping happen in those particular sessions, whereas seminars or knowledge sharing sessions are typically going to be more theater style in terms of the room setup. And I am glancing through these questions here. Bruce, if you see other questions, feel free to jump in.
There was a recent question from Michelle about do we ever have students or faculty from teacher prep programs? Yeah, we certainly do. I would want you to think that it's a large percentage of our attendees, but certainly we do have folks that are involved in teacher preparation, both from a perspective of maybe university faculty that are running such programs, and sometimes folks that are just getting into the teaching profession or wanting to get into the profession. We also do have, and we actually one of them has been great. I think you're probably referring to several students, meaning like adult students, but if I may build on that a little bit more, one of the exciting things that we have seen over the last couple of years is even more students, K-12 students, attending our events. And I would encourage you, and we probably should have had that as one of the things that would be great if you can add it, but if you can add student voice to your presentation, and even by them being there, we always like to have students attending the event and being part of the presentation. And after all, it's for them as to why we're all involved in this work in the first place. And so to have any elements of your presentation that might include student voice, student participation, student perspective, certainly would not discourage you from doing that.
We did have one other question more towards the top as well about the potential range of our audience members in terms of grade levels. And within the presentation proposal, you will have the opportunity to select where your focus is going to be, whether that's at the elementary level, at the middle school level, at the high school level, or at the higher ed level. And that is a check all that apply list. So as you think about submitting your presentation proposal, you can cater and design your session to speak to particular audiences that you have in mind. And we include this information in the program book as well, so that as attendees are flipping through sessions and figuring out where to go, if they're an elementary school teacher, then they can really choose the sessions that fall under the elementary category and kind of make sure that they are going to sessions that are going to be the most meaningful and informative to them in their role. So that is an option within the RFP flow. And I'm not sure if we have any further questions that came through. So if you have any last-minute questions or questions that we might have missed, please feel free to add them into the chat box or simply click the talk button in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. And you can speak and ask us a question that way if you prefer. But we will certainly be sending everyone follow-up information after today's webinar that will have this full recording and the slide deck, so you can refer back to any of the conversations we had today or share this with other peers who may not have been able to attend today's webinar. And Amy, your question, are there certain types of sessions more likely to be chosen? No. No, the program committee will consider the type of session that you choose, but there are not quotas or specific percentages of accepted presentations that fall under each different session type. So we just encourage you to choose the session type that aligns most closely with the presentation that you are designing for the symposium. And Julia, your question, does subject matter matter? If you are referring to the content that is in the title and the description and the session learning outcomes that you include in your proposal, the answer is Absolutely. You know, sometimes, you know, content-specific proposals are sometimes really helpful for other teachers who are attending the conference, and sharing those insights and the classroom experiences within the context of a particular subject is sometimes really helpful. Now those are going to be more specific sessions that don't apply to quite as many attendees, but they are incredibly helpful and valuable to the folks who have similar jobs and roles. So if that's where your expertise lies, we encourage you to go ahead and submit a presentation proposal aligned to that. So Bruce, I don't know if you have anything else to add on that or any other closing words for today's webinar.
No, I just thank you everybody for participating today, as well as the great questions that have come in. You'll see that once you get into the inner workings of the RFP, I think some of the things that Natalie and I have described should come pretty clear in terms of the types of questions we're asking you to answer in terms of filling out your proposal. And there's always an opportunity between now and submitting the proposal to circle back if you have any clarifying questions as well. So don't feel like this is your one and only opportunity to get a question answered. If you have a burning question, by all means, feel free to follow up with us. But you know, I guess the only final thing I would say, Natalie, to everyone on our webinar today is just please be cognizant of those timelines. Don't want to be the person who has to be the bearer of bad news. If you reach out to us after the deadline, can I submit a proposal? The answer is going to be no, and so we don't want anyone to miss that window of time. So, and again, you know, you can go in and pull down all the questions, work on your proposal all at once, and then submit it, or you can kind of go in a little each day and add to it if you want, whatever works for you. But please be cognizant of those time frames that we're working under. So Natalie, I think that's thank you. Thank you for the information you provided. Thank you for everyone who joined today. And we'll make sure that the archived version of this is sent out to you that you can share. And we'll make sure that the sound quality is up to par as well. So thank you for bearing with us. So with that, Natalie, unless you have anything else to add, I think we can wrap up today's webinar.
Thanks, Bruce, and thanks, everyone. We are really looking forward to seeing all of your wonderful proposals here in another month or so. So, yes, thank you for attending, and we hope to see you in Nashville in the fall.